thanks. Can you guys hear me really well? I have a big mouth, so I know, hopefully you guys can hear me from that. I hate mics for the point, so Chris. But, so at any time, let me know. Just raise your hand in the back if you can't hear me. I will mumble something. Most of the time, that's because I'm saying it under my breath, because I want to get it out, but I don't want you guys to hear it, so just worry about it. So, and because she's recording this as well, I definitely don't want it to be on tapes. For that. So this mug shot, someone told me it was going to come back to haunt me one day. From that point, my PO office does not know I left Maine. So, so again, I've done enough visits and stuff with ACE, and you guys normally say ACE. We've been told to say ACE because they're not a hardware store, so it's trained for me to say ACE, but if you say ACE, it's okay. I will not correct you in any particular way. But so one thing I want to do real quick, and I was talking to my cohorts here, during our presentation, either during the lunch panel or even during my presentation, if anything that comes up on the screen that just puts in a burning question for you, put it on a Post-it note. Okay, I don't say stickies, I say Post-it note. I'm from back east, but put it on a Post-it note and just put it up here on the board. Okay, just make sure we can read it. That's the only thing from there. But one of the things I'm here to talk about is I'm going to talk a little bit about the ACE program. How many people are familiar with the American Council on Education? Okay, a few, great. So what we do is, the American Council of Education has been around since 1918. So pretty much right after the First World War, when the veterans were coming back, they actually started working on the GED. Because at that point we were actually doing, at that time it was the Department of War, said we need to do something to these veterans, we need to get them trained, we need to get them educated. So this is what we did. So ACE was formed out of that partnership with the Department of War, which is now the Department of Defense. And so since 1918, we've actually been working with the military, which is where our roots are at from that point. Starting in 1949, after World War II, we actually got a little bit more involved in working with colleges and universities, actually having those faculty members review military occupational work and military training for college level credit. So that's really where we kind of kicked in, our division kicked in, which has actually been changed over to the Center for Education, Attainment, and Innovation. I don't know why we went to such a long name on that part, but within our division, we have military programs. So most people are familiar with ACE military credits, correct? Raise your hand if you are. Okay, so you guys are there. Corporate programs. How many people know about our corporate programs? Everyone should be raising your hand because there's a brochure on the table. Ah, see, you got you on that. So yeah, in 1973, the same thing we were doing with the military, someone said, why don't you do this with corporate programs? And right about that time, that's when many of those corporate institutions or corporate universities were coming into place. So we actually started working with some of those groups and corporations there. And then we actually just do all of these evaluation processes. So it is not a huge number of people from ACE, full-time employees who work with ACE, sitting around the table, figuring out or throwing things on the dartboard saying, well, maybe you should get credit for this, maybe you should get credit for that. These are actually our peers. So the same faculty members we see on our campuses, we see across the country. All of our faculty members are represented from regional accredited institutions. The faculty members actually, and I talked about this a little later, those faculty members have to be teaching in that current discipline. If they're reviewing that course, they have had to teach that course in the last 2 to 3 years as well. So we have some strict guidelines from that. And I love this earlier because I was at the table laughing because I was like, Christine's done all of my presentation for me at this point. But when you look at CPL, so when you look at CPL, it is a formalized process. And I know there's some YouTube videos out. I think there's one guy that put one out last summer where he's from the University of, one of the UC system schools, where he said he actually got half of his degree done through prior learning assessment, and basically the way he marks it out to the students is that, you know, I got half of my degree for free. And so a lot of people have seen those videos and stuff, and people take it the wrong way. And I know you've seen the commercials from some of those other institutions, some especially the for-profit institutions. They make it seem very easy to do this, that you can get experience for actually doing housework. or you can get experience from actually babysitting, or even doing PTA work. There are a lot of different ways that we can look at credit for prior learning. That is sometimes up to the institution, how they want to define it, how they want to use it. One of the things I tell people as I've done this presentation for a number of years, it is up to your institution how you use it, because it is a make and break of your institution. So I'll give you a quick example. There's a school in the middle of Oklahoma, for some particular reasons, chose the Navy, one of the Navy career programs, to actually align with their program. Well, my first question was, well, how many Navy personnel do you guys get in? None. So why would you do that? Why would you align? Well, it aligns really well with our program. I'm like, well, great, it does, but are you getting those people in? If not, then it's going to be, really more fodder for faculty to use and say, guess what? We spent all this time, all this work doing this, and we have got nothing out of it. So to do it just to do it is not a good thing. You need to make sure it actually fits your institutional culture. So credit for prior learning actually comes into that particular area. Here are some formal definitions I pulled up. I did some work with Pearson for the prior year, and they actually have a great definition up. I'm not going to read these guys to you because this presentation will be available to you, but they have this is really wonderful the way they put this together. Pearson and ACE teamed up year before last, actually doing a huge CPL project across the country. So a number of presentations, webinars were done. Their site conference in Orlando in 2015 was a great conference where we actually broadcast an entire panel presentation across the country to other individuals talking about CPLA and what was going on in different campuses. So why? Why CPL? Why PLA now? So many different things. We know our learners are changing. We know they're coming to us with different experiences. We know there's economic pressures there as well too. We know departments are dwindling by numbers and by budget support. We also know we have the huge, and we heard from Dr. Lowry last night, it was hyphenated. Thank you. This morning, basically talking about completion. Completion rates right now are horrible for us, and we have to do something about it. One of the lines from my most favorite movie, Blazing Saddles, and that I like to say sometimes is that we have to protect our phony baloney jobs. No, I'm joking. Our jobs are there. But it's interesting because people are saying, what are you guys doing? Why can't these people get out? And there's a myriad of things going on that other people do not understand from that point. But it still falls back on us as those institutions. New sources of learning are out there. And one of the biggest quotes, and you'll see this at the end of my presentation, is that ACE believes, and truly hardly believes, that it doesn't matter where that person learns it, how they learn it, when they learn it. If they can show that, then it's already there from that standpoint. And we all are examples of that in this room, because think about our jobs. I can tell you, when I went through my undergrad years, I did not think about being a college instructor or professor. I did not think about being an academic chair or dean. So in any particular way, I took the skills that I had from the bottom and got myself to that successful level from there. Same thing with many of us from that standpoint. Looking at the leveraging of technologies, there's so much stuff out there that we need to load, we need to learn, and that we know some of our students are coming back. Again, I go back to public expectations on that standpoint. Also, persistence patterns. We do have to help our students out. We have a new breed of students now. I actually was on a search committee, and our HR person, when I was saying, and this person's changed jobs every 3 years, and they looked at when this person graduated from high school, and they were like, oh, they're a millennial. That's par for the course right here. That's normal. I'm like, really? Changing jobs every 2 or 3 years? That would have lost me on that part. So again, there's different things changing from that point. And decreasing time to degree. Again, it was mentioned through our presentations here. If those students show that skill, they show those competencies, why should they sit in the classroom? And we've seen that even from the CE side, who I think started this for the first year. Anybody from the CE side here in the room? Anyone? Okay. Okay. Those guys there, because they know it. They have picked up these competencies. They've picked up the skill. Why make them sit back in again and go through this? And the last is, again, let's talk about competencies. We have to show it. We have to reflect it. We, in education, higher education, we're just getting into that. We have not done well. And we know all of the regional accreditors have been on us. The Department of Ed has been on us. And so in the last 5 to 10 years, we've had to pick up on our pace, showing how our students are picking up these competencies in our classroom. So we've gone through a tremendous curriculum change within that standpoint. These are some graphics that I picked up from Pearson doing our work with them. Our average student age right now, looking at higher education, especially for a number of our community colleges, around 25, 27 years old. Look how many are working at 72%. That's a lot. So we've had to change our schedules. A lot of us now at this point, and I have to laugh. There was a college back east, a small private college I was working with as a consultant, and the president told us that he's surprised at how many times he walks around the buildings and those classrooms are empty. And we're like, you launched an online program 2 years ago. Don't you think those students are going to leave the classroom and go to your online classes? So, but it's the mentality of some people. They're not understanding really and truly what's going on from there. Look at our attendance numbers that we're looking at as well. So again, there are a number of things taking place as we look at this. And they're just kind of they're going to get a little worse before they get better for us, because we actually have to jump on that bandwagon. Again, look at here on our completion numbers. This is not really good. This is not. And so we have to work on this. And we have a lot of these students who are not completing, leaving for huge debt. And that debt goes over onto our economic side within our communities, because most time they're not leaving our communities. So then they're actually starting to become a little bit of a burden to society because they're carrying this debt. They're not picking it up. How many people here, we have some counselors, how many people are from financial aid in here? Okay, all right. Any academic or college administrators in the room? Okay, yeah. So you guys kind of hold your breath once in a while when you say, hey, the Department of Ed sent out the default rate reports, right? Yeah, we start holding our breath, like thinking, we hope somebody's worse than we are. It's a bad thought. It is a bad thought, but we're like, as long as we're not on the bottom, we are okay. And it's a sad thing to think about, but we're just hoping that we're not on that special cut list at any particular time. By 2020, which is right around the corner, so, and this is one of those graphics that Pearson put up to scare people. Look how many jobs that are going to be available that need actually a post-secondary degree. And if you go back to the completion rate slide, we're not going to have people to fill those jobs. So what are we going to do? I'm trying to figure out which jobs are going to be missing out, and do I need those? I mean, I'm quickly approaching retirement age, as you can tell. So I really want to know what's going to happen on that point. But there's good things. There are people who are looking for us to start using more CPL and PLA practices on our campuses so they can go back to school, they can go back and get that degree. 75%. So they were looking for it. They want it. They want to get there. And we'll look at this number here for persistence and completion rates. So that's not bad if they do engage in using prior learning assessment or CPL. Look at that. 2.5% are actually more likely to graduate and get that degree, which again helps us out in the long run. But we talk about barriers, only 27%. So last count I checked, and I think this is from the National Center on Education Stats, there are 4,732 colleges in the country. It's 2 years, 4 years put together. That's for-profit and not-for-profit. And only 27% of us are using or exercising using CPL and prior learning experience. That's kind of scary as well too. So we really need to get this number up from that standpoint. And the thing is not, when I first started out with ACE, I was actually told in an interview, when I interviewed for the regional liaison consultant position, was that we see a lot of resistant faculty members. And I was going in thinking like, okay, why are faculty members being resistant? That doesn't sound like my colleagues or so. That's just not the people I work with. And it really is not them being resistant. It's not the point. We said it earlier. It's not being informed. And we have staff members who aren't informed as well. So it's us as a college industry. We are not informed of certain things. And we've allowed ourselves to do that. We've allowed ourselves to be siloed. And this is when I get on my soapbox thing, because again, I'm getting old. But the standpoint is that for some faculty members, we've allowed ourselves to be disconnected. We've totally stayed on, and some people say our island or whatever else, and I guess we can't get on our islands once in a while. But the point is, we've been on our islands and we don't understand it's really not an island, it's an isthmus. And when the tide comes in, we know we're on an island. But when the tide goes out, there's a little connector somewhere there for us to go back to the larger higher ed community. We have to make sure we keep that connection there. We have to understand what's going on in our classroom by knowing what is coming in on our campuses, what's going on with the students, from advising, what type of students are coming in, we need to know those kind of things from that standpoint on the faculty side. So it's really important that we decrease those barriers and we start to look with eyes wide open on there. So then this is some more survey stuff that you guys can look at. A lot of things have been going on. When I start talking about near the end of the presentation, when I start looking at some of the schools and what they've done, some of them have been funded through grants, and some schools are like, oh, we want those grants. Some schools are like, you know what, we just went ahead and we made a decision. And from what I heard earlier today, Amarillo, you guys have made that decision. It's on your strategic plan now. So you've made that decision. You've made that first step in commitment, which I applaud you for on that one, because that's a good thing. And now you just kind of have to keep trudging with it. And there's going to be a lot of aches and pains. There's going to be a lot of 1 step forward, 3 steps back. But, you know, you just learn how to work the field and do that little crazy dance. So one of the articles I'm actually working on writing is talking about higher education. So I'm naming it The Waltz. Okay, so we're talking about the little crazy formal dance we do. We're talking about the waltz. And we're talking about the tango that we do. And the last part of it is talking about the boogie woogie. So that's the kind of dance that I've seen over my 22 years in higher education. I've had to do all 3 of them. And I can actually tell you, this body really does not like to dance. So I've done a lot of dancing from that standpoint. But it's what we kind of have to do to navigate. And this is a kind of different environment we're in. We just can't walk that straight path any longer from there. So I'm off my soapbox and moving on. How many people have been to the military guide online? Just a few people. Okay, right now ACEs, we're working on a webinar to hopefully get out sometime next year where we can actually do a quick and dirty webinar to train people how to use this. This is going to be your best friend when you start working in credit for prior learning or PLA. This is going to be your best friend. So this is going to be, you'll have this PowerPoint as well, so you know what website to go to from there. It's at the end of the presentation. Bless you. It covers, the military guide covers all 5 branches, and I know the Coast Guard now, which is why I put the blue black ring around them. The Coast Guard is now with the Department of Homeland Security, but we still review courses and occupations for the Coast Guard, even though they're no longer part of the Department of Defense from there. So we cover all of the branches, which also includes their reserve components as well, too. The National Guide. How many people have heard of the National Guide before? Okay, great. It's good. So we got a little bit more hands up. National Guide covers the corporate side of the ACE house. So this guide will take us through some of these organizations. So I'm pretty sure you guys have heard of McDonald's. And actually I heard one young lady mention that you guys have done some work with McDonald's here, right? Yep, in the area. So that's a good thing. That's great. And, you know, Hamburger U has done a lot over the years. They've done a lot with ACE. We've done a number of reviews for them. But we see Disney up here. We see Starbucks. Starbucks has a great management training program for their baristas. And we also know, what was it, last fall, where Starbucks announced that for most of a number of their employees or managers, they're going to be actually taking care of some of their higher education costs for them. So again, they've actually been one corporation to step up the plate. I know Walmart has actually started doing some online training courses for their people, and since they're global now at this point, they're starting to do a lot of different things. But definitely, again, that's another organization or company I'm sorry to get with. But as you can see here, from that standpoint, there's a lot going on, and there's a lot more companies that we actually have to say. Jiffy Lube was one that I was very impressed with their management program that they do. Very much hands-on once they got out of the classroom, so it was a great blended management program that they've done. But I was very impressed with those. Disney's actually, I have to say, I was on that review twice for them training their management training program. One of the things that I was very impressed with about Disney was that no matter who you are, so you can be the president, CEO, you will go through the same exact orientation and training that the snow cone person goes through. So you will have those two people sitting together, working together as a group, because that is part of their philosophy from that standpoint. And you've got some people who actually, as we met some of the employees, people who actually started when they were 21 years old as a snow cone operator or someone supplying ice to the other side of the parks, who actually now is running operations because they started at that level and they've moved up within the system again. And every time they move up, it's a different tier of training and development for them. So very, very much component to the same thing we see in some of our leadership and management programs. Here, we do a lot of exams as well too. You guys have heard of CLEP, AP, what else do we have out there? We have the old Dante's, which is now DSST. Any more out there? Any groups? No one's picked up on that. So you actually see up here, if you see at the top, we have Coursera. So we've actually looked at some of the MOOCs as well too for our credit reviews. Some of those didn't go really well. Some of them did from that standpoint. So again, we got a lot of things going on. There are a lot of options. These are those opportunities that that people were talking about earlier that we want to see for our students. And so if you don't know they're not out there, here they are at this point. So getting into this, and how many faculty members? I think I counted 5 hands when we went up for faculty, right? Is that correct? So I have one here, and you guys were faculty, right? Okay, so about 5 or 6 hands for faculty. So the biggest concern that we see for faculty members is 2 things. One, they're like, well, how did they come up with this credit recommendation? First thing is first. And that's a granted, and that's a very valid question. And so from that point, the charge of the faculty for us when our faculty members come in and once they go through their training, and our evaluation handbook is actually on our website. It is public. Anybody can download it at this point. It's there. And there's other materials and so from that point. But we definitely will go through and look at this. As I get to the next slide, this is very reminiscent to what I like to call our curriculum, and you mentioned earlier, I think they're curriculum review committees, right? This is very reminiscent of what happened when I came in through higher ed as a faculty member and running as a chair as a dean. This is kind of how our curriculum review process went. And this is the same thing that we see within ACE when we're doing our review of those courses or even those occupations, making those credit recommendations. We start with the course content, and from there we move to the learning outcomes. And we just go around this circle until we get to assessments. And we make sure everything is congruent. Everything works together. Everything complements each other. So if one piece of this puzzle is missing, there may not be a credit recommendation. And I have a slide that kind of details about what happens when we do not go or make it through a credit recommendation for that. And it does not matter if it is the military. It does not matter if it's McDonald's U or Jiffy Lube or whatever else from that point. For a faculty member and for a reviewer, we don't know the business side of ACE. So for me, and I've done enough of these, again, in these presentations and been with ACE, I still do not know the business side. But I do know that every organization on the corporate side, there is an application process, and that organization is vetted and run through before I ever get a phone call to either assemble a team or to be on a team. So if they haven't even made it, if I know they've made it to that point where they're getting the team together, then everything's been checked off and done well. And there's a number of them who don't even make it to that point. Review teams, there's a coordinator. So it is another faculty member. And sometimes it's 2 of us, depending on the size of the team. And we are, quote, they call us a seasoned faculty members from that point. But there's faculty members who are actually team coordinators, and we most likely have been reviewers for a number of reviews. We also have the subject matter expert. Every course is reviewed on the military side by 3 faculty members. On the corporate side, there are 2 faculty members that review every course. And consensus has to be made. I just recently was on a review last month, and the two of us, Patrick and I, who've worked together on a number of courses before, we could not come to a consensus. So a 3rd faculty member was brought in. 3rd faculty member could not come in on consensus with the 2 of us. And so we basically went back to the organization. I'm sorry, we cannot grant credit to this. And we gave my reason and rationale why. And all of those reasons and rationales were put together. Mine, Patrick's, and I think it was Christina, who came in as the 3rd reviewer from that point. So again, it doesn't matter who's, quote, and I like to say paying the bill because I've seen the articles before. It doesn't matter who's paying the bill. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen from there. We normally bring a psychometrician in if the review's going bad. No, I'm joking. Because if we're going psycho, then at that point, no. We normally bring the psychometricians in when we're dealing with exams or we're dealing with some level of validity from that. So if this course that we're reviewing has some very, detailed matrix or metrics or so going on, from this point the psychometrician would actually come in and they will validate the testing standards and all of those things. So, and these are some of the things that faculty members like to hear. We like to see this. But I still have a number of my colleagues, my brethren and sister out there, who say, if I wasn't there, I didn't touch it, I didn't see it, I didn't smell it, it didn't happen. That's scary sometimes, because I'm like, do you say that for every course on your campus? And this is where I, as a faculty member, I start calling people out. And I have to say, I did this in Georgia, and I really thought they were going to tar and feather me before I got to the airport, because I did. And it was a little hostile kind of group, because this was being pushed on by their administration. And one of the things I have to say, it has to start from the faculty, within the faculty, and then grow. If it's pushed by the administration, it's going to be pushed back from the faculty, and that's not a good thing. And so I came into a hostile situation at that point, and even my comments didn't make it much better, but at the same time, they were very honest comments and everything as well, because I know, as being a faculty member, and some of you guys know as well, we've seen the person across the hall from us in the 50-minute class who let them out in 30 minutes early. We've seen that before. So again, when I talk about reliability and validity and stuff, let me talk about over here. I'm still here for 49 minutes and they were gone in 20 minutes. So let's think about those different things kind of thing. And this is part of the conversations that I think that has to happen. And I think it's Covey, who talks about crucial conversations in some of his work. This is where crucial conversations come into play within the faculty ranks from that point. So I will hop on and off of that soapbox once in a while, sorry. What we look at when we're doing the reviews, we actually look at course syllabi. Any veterans in the room, military, any branch but Marines. I'm sorry, joking. So we have one, that's it? Okay, right. I'm Army, have been Army. My dad, my grandfather was Army. I had an uncle who was Marine, but we didn't talk to him after that. So I always pick on Marines, but I spent 5 years in Yuma, Arizona, so I was there at the Marine Corps Air Station, and the weirdest thing was being around Marines all the time, so I couldn't do my Marine jokes like I wanted to. Funny quick story. One Sunday morning we were going to church. I threw on a pair of kind of darker olive pants and threw on a tan shirt, and I had on my kind of brown loafer shoes, my darker ones, and I walked out and my wife's laughing at me, and my neighbor just yells out, "Hey, you look like one of us now. You're a Marine." I went back in and changed. So we look at the textbooks as well. We also look at all of the assessment materials, so quizzes, exams. If there's hands-on projects, we want to see the rubrics. We want to see everything we can possibly get for doing this review and for that review from there. Any laboratory projects that we have, we look at the instructional support material, and we look at instructor qualifications. Now, I'm going to say that with a caveat. With the military, the contract that ACE has with them, we do not touch their instructor qualifications. And actually, some of the branches that I've actually reviewed, some of their qualifications for the individuals to get to be that instructor status, it's kind of like you've seen in Top Gun. You got the best of the best of the best there. So a number of their instructors that we see at these schoolhouses, they are the best, and they rotate in probably every 5 to 6 years as they move up and move out within the area. So again, for military, we don't trust touch those qualifications, and we trust that their promotion process has done that. Team recommendations. Everything that we do is based on what we're going to see as equivalency on a college campus somewhere. So if we as a faculty member, as a team, and we say, there's all three right there, if you see them and we say, well, you know, I've never seen this kind of course on a college campus, I don't think this is going to fly on a college campus, I don't even think their learning objectives even approaches what we do on a college campus, it most likely is not going to receive a credit recommendation. So we have to find that equivalency there. When we get finished with all of this, we come up with our credit categories: vocational or certificate, the lower division of a baccalaureate or the associate's degree, upper division for a baccalaureate, or even graduate. Now, I'm going to also talk about these real quick because we sometimes have this issue with some groups. We've had some medical groups, and these are doctors that we're dealing with, just like we deal with the military. I was at the Naval Academy the Navy War College last spring, and we had a review. We actually made credit recommendations, and you would think because these officers already have a degree, our recommendation was probably graduate, right? No, it doesn't go that way. However that course is established, however it is set up, okay? That's the credit recommendation we made. What they presented to us was something we would see at the 4-year level at an upper division, 300, 400 level course. That's the credit recommendation we made. The executive director was not happy with us. And we just basically told them, this is what's presented, this is how it's being taught. If you want or looking at graduate level credit, these are certain things that we're looking for as a faculty members. It has to happen. And to go back to that team makeup, if we are reviewing graduate level courses, we have to have faculty member on the team who have reviewed graduate level and taught graduate level courses before as well. So again, we have to match everything up. So it is a huge dynamic that comes to play with that. So it does not matter what kind of degree the learner already has. we're matching it to the course material that is presented to us right then and right there. We can't look at futures. We can't look at what used to be there. It has to be there when that team is on the ground from that standpoint. This is just a quick cover sheet when we do a course review. For those who are not familiar with the military, some people actually say, and I've had faculty members say, well, why can't we see that syllabus you look at? Well, sometimes the syllabus is huge. So a PLA for the Army or for the Coast Guard, it's not like our traditional 4, 5, 6 page syllabus we have. There are 120 pages to some of the POIs. And most of the military jargon, most people may not understand it so from that point. So it's really hard to say, I can give you a copy of their POI. Now, sometimes they've actually told us when we've showed up for reviews, this was actually in Alabama at Fort Rucker, well, this is classified, so you can't review this. Well, that's great. That's no problem. We can't review your course. So there's no credit recommendation made. And somehow, miraculously, by the end of the day, we're getting a copy of that course. It's been sanitized for us to look at. So again, it doesn't matter what they say and how they do it. I've been to Fort Huachuca, below Tucson, Arizona, and Sierra Vista, yeah, from there, and that's where pretty much the military intelligence school is at. So you know everything there is classified. Even going to the restroom is classified there, because when you walk out of the door, you have to have someone escort you down the hall to the restroom. So same thing. If we can't review it, then the review is not done on that material from there. Occupational reviews. This is where we get into what Christine was talking about earlier. We're looking at the competency-based type of education. So we take it one step further with these reviews. Now we're looking at what they're doing after they finish that formal education that we did for the course reviews earlier. And now we want to piece it together. So we actually do an interview, and we will have a room probably half the size of this. We will have a table in, and they will bring in every individual from the lowest rank to the highest enlisted rank. We do not normally do officers for occupational reviews. They have their own little curriculum set up. So from an E1 to an E9, we will actually have in a room at a table, and we will interview, and there's normally 3 representatives from each rank, and we will interview them based on what they are doing in their job currently right now. So we're looking at work experience now and job performance. We will review their technical manuals. We would go back and review what they were supposed to learn in whatever school they went through. We'll look at all of that, and then we actually sit down and we will discuss with them what they're doing now. And we have a nice little check sheet and tools that we use to get us through this process. And we want to know everything from job performance. Are you really doing this? And sometimes I think it's really funny when I have an E9 who, let's say he's a sergeant major or first sergeant or whatever, he's telling us that, oh yeah, we stand watch, we do these kind of things. I'm like, I've never known in my time in the Army that I would see a sergeant major standing guard where I know a private could be doing that right then and there. So it's really interesting to see the scope of work that they think they actually do. But what we actually see is these individuals here, as they go from an E1 to an E5, right in the middle of that rank progression, these guys are mostly the technical people that we're seeing. When we get to an E5, E6, E7, we're starting to see supervision, beginnings of leadership. When we get to those E8, E7s, E8, and E9s, we're naturally seeing upper senior executive leadership on that level. So there should be a progression of what they do as they go through this process. And that's what we're looking for, that's what we want to hear, and that's what we see. I should never hear an E9 tell me that he was actually over doing a plot board box on a tank. Never. Unless he was actually instructing someone to do that. But if not, that's not his job anymore. He's actually managing all of those operations for that group. So those are the kind of things that we actually get in and see. I got into this a little earlier. Not all courses receive credits, so sometimes courses are too limited. So let's say you guys are at Johnson University, and we also have a nice culinary arts program, and I have a secret sauce for our tacos. But guess what? That secret sauce only stays in my vault at say, let's say Taco Shack. And we can't actually make a credit recommendation for that because that student cannot take that anywhere else but right here and there. So that way limits the students. And we try to tell people that as we go through the reviews. They actually lack the academic rigor that we're looking for, and that can be in just the course design itself. It could be in the course delivery, and sometimes, and I've seen this so much sometimes within the military, sometimes it is the assessments. that, you know, they do great in everything else they do. When we get to assessments, and this course is great, it's written at a 300, 400 level, and all I see are multiple choice exams, true, false questions. That's not going to cut it for that type of assessment for that level of a course there. So again, for everyone who's on the 2-year college level, that works good. But when we get into at the baccalaureate degree and even at the graduate level, those kind of courses don't work. Graduate level courses, there has to be independent work done. There has to be research projects. I will be at the Command Leadership School next week at Fort Leavenworth, Kansas. So I'm not going back to see my PO officer, no, so I'm just joking, let you guys know. But going back to Fort Leavenworth, and we're going to be with the Command Leadership School, and actually we will be reviewing graduate level work at that point, the team will. So we are expecting to see the kind of stuff that we've seen in the past. These guys have written articles, they've actually published some papers. Those are the kind of products we want to see coming out of them when we're looking at the graduate level work that they're looking at. Here I mentioned the evaluation and the assessments are sometimes horrible. And one thing in the military, for those who are not familiar, we do a lot of checklists, so it's go or no go. You have to quantify that sometimes for faculty members and for us when we do that. And then the material that they presented is just not enough material for us to make a judgment. So it's just not enough. And that's what the example I was given with Fort Rucker and with Fort Huachuca. Your stuff's good. Yeah, you want the guys from aviation programs to give you or look at credit for, or award you credit, I'm sorry, for working the drones. But when you tell me that we can only read 5 pages of a 90-page course outline, that just doesn't fly. We can't work with that from there. So, and this is kind of leads into the afternoon session or so from that point. And as we talk about, there is no magic elixir, as I mentioned. I'm going to give you some examples of different schools. We're going to talk about some of those later on today. But there's nothing magic about it at all. It is going to be hard work, and the hard work is basically everyone rolling up their sleeves, looking at their curriculum and being honest with themselves and saying, okay, what can we work with, what can we do? And then again, it's going to be up to the comfort level of the faculty, but the faculty actually has to be informed. So, so the quick presentation I did on the faculty review part, we have a primer that we do with faculty, and it goes for about 2 hours, 3 hours or so, but it is to get them into the mode of understanding how the review process actually works and goes from there. It can vary by student as well too, because you have so many students coming in from so many different areas and they have so many different work experiences. So you can set up some categories, but when it comes down to it and you start reviewing that student, it is going to be looking at that individual student work experience. And so we just can't all pigeonhole it and put it into a nice neat box. So it takes time for someone to individually look at this. And also too, you have to know what was learned. I gave a great example when I was back in Maine. One of the students who was a police officer, he had been training for 5 or 6 years. What he wanted to do is he wanted to skip out of the oral communication class because he trains, he talks a lot, he knows how to present. So what we did is we set him up and said, okay, we're going to pull the learning objectives for that class. We're also going to have 2 instructors who teach that class use their assessments for those students, and we're going to bring in 2 of your peers. And so you're going to do a presentation. So he was allowed to present on whatever topic he wanted to do. He bombed out. He did not even meet half of what a student in that class would have been required. He was flabbergasted. I mean, we just said, you have a great personality, you have a great style, but guess what? You're not hitting what you need to hit in the course. That's the important part. So we always reflect back to the learning objectives for those courses from there. And the last time here, it involves faculty.
Could you elaborate on the learning modalities issue, since Arnold was taught that the learning modalities have to be equivalent?
They do from that point, and we look at the instructional methods, and we look at the method of delivery for those individuals. If it's blended, if it's actually just on ground, or if it's fully online from that. So when we look at those, we try to work out those different levels of modality from in that sense. But at the same time, again, we're taking a snapshot, and so and to give you an example, and this is one of the hardest things for some people to understand with the military, but also even for the corporate ones that we do. We're talking about not just in our classroom or for campus. We're talking about across the board. So if you think about it, when we make a decision for a course in the military, say for the Army, that covers every individual in that MOS, in that position, in the entire United States Army. Same thing, and we don't do too many Air Forces courses, but some things for the Air Force courses as well. So we have to look at it on a global level from that standpoint. Does that help? For that?
So what, I think now what I was missing, I was thinking, I thought
Excuse me.
maybe that when you talked about the learning modalities, that you were, I guess I missed that what you meant is you were determining that the learning modalities were in fact equivalent in their impact of.
Right.
And,
Yeah. So, there. So, cool. So that's kind of where we get there. And actually, here's some perfect examples coming up on our next few slides. This is what I mentioned earlier, our philosophy. Oops. Oh, okay. I went too fast there. These are great, four great examples. Fayetteville Tech and Miami-Dade both went through a FISPE grant. I always say that wrong. They went through a grant and they created programs. Fayetteville Tech is in North Carolina, right near Fort Bragg. So what they did is, and this is why I said you have to see what's around you and what you can work with. What they actually did is they went over and looked at what MOSs were attached to Fort Bragg. And what programs do I have that matches up with that? So one, there was a military police program, so their CJ program or protective services program went with there. They actually did nursing. There was a nursing school there. They also attached themselves with, through Fayetteville Tech Community College, there was a program with the next state university, which is Fayetteville State University. They had a PA program. They actually connected with the JFK Special Warfare School because most of the Special Forces medics go through that school. And when those individuals leave that medic program, as far as a combat medic, they're very close to being a PA. Same stuff they're doing almost the same thing that a PA would. So they matched those programs up between the two institutions and what was going on with the Special Warfare School from that. So there's always creative things to do. You just have to know what's in your area and what to work with. So is there a military post close by here? Anything? I'm sorry? Is there? There's one in Lubbock? Okay, great. So you have one in Lubbock there, but like in Minnesota, Minnesota has no active military posts at all. It's all Army or Air Force National Guard. So what they did is they actually catered to the specialties of the Army, the active guard, or even the reserve components that are actually there, since they actually had no true active military post there from that point. So again, it's just being creative, looking at what's in your backyard and understanding what's there. Miami-Dade did the same thing. They looked at their medical assisting program, they looked at their dental program, their CJ program, and they matched up with Coast Guard, and then there's an Air Force base not too far from Miami as well. Coastline Community College, right there in California, right above San Diego, they hooked up with the San Diego Naval Station and the Marine Corps. See, remember that. I gave the credits to the Marines on that one. They hooked up the Marine Corps. Marine Corps recruiting school, or their depot, where most of their Marines who come to the West Coast for their training at Camp Pendleton, they actually come through the Marine Corps depot, which is actually where the Marines hold their recruiters school at. The recruiter school was aligned with their business program, marketing and management program, special events kind of things. So a lot of business administration areas from that. And you guys know about Central Texas, and you know about their database that they put up. You guys know about that one? Have you seen it? No, okay, I want to Well, I'm thinking you guys are from Texas. No joke. Texas is a huge state. I've only been here for not even a year yet. Next week makes a year. But Central Texas has put together a great depository of information based on the occupations that they see at Fort Hood. So a lot of Army, but they've also branched out, and they did it for other groups. And they did this through I'm going to say this wrong, College Heroes for Texas, or Texas College Heroes? Yeah. That's it. There you go, College for Heroes. I knew I was going to say it wrong. So, but they actually, they did that through that actual program there. So again, a student who comes in with a certain MOS in their database can put that in and say, okay, I was in the Army. Let's say I was a 31 Bravo, which is actually MP, and by that they've actually already aligned with the MP curriculum out at Fort Leonard Wood. They've already connected that to what those individuals may receive for credit if they came into Central Texas College. So the work is there and it's been done. Jocelyn, I always say her name wrong, it's Jocelyn Grout, who's at Coastline Community College. She is the now VP or Dean for Continuing Education Studies, but before she was in military programs, she set up a wonderful database. So if you go to their website, which is on 2 slides down, they actually have an incredible database for all of the branches. All of them. And you can actually go through and see how they've mapped their curriculum at Coastline to the military curriculum. These are state systems, so it's not even a matter if a campus can do it. We have entire states doing it. So even though Georgia wanted to run me out, guess what? They did it. They did it a year ago, or 2 years ago, I'm sorry, 2 years ago. West Virginia, they're actually rolling and doing this at this point. And we were just in Tennessee, in Memphis in February, because they've actually gone to the second level of their program because their Board of Regents is now supporting this as well. I tell people, if it's great at a state level if it's doing it, but even if the state's not doing it, you can do it at your individual campuses. So this is way too small to see. I did not put this together. An individual who was at Fayetteville Tech Community College, Bridget Petzoid, she actually put this together, and this is how they went through. This was their mapping process. So you guys will have this available through Christine so you can see this a little better, but it's not that hard. It really is not that hard. The hardest thing is getting people to understand, and I hate the word buy-in, so I use the word understand, to understand what's going on and what's the benefits on both sides. There are the web addresses for those institutions, so you can go and see what they've done and all the great work. No. So. Oh, I'm sorry.
So that's the College Heroes for Texas website right there?
Yeah, right here. So, yeah, so, good. Go.
Remember, we'll be at Central Texas College August 3rd.
Oh, so, and, yeah, definitely, great. And these are just other web resources I've given you guys, and again, you'll have a copy of this. I wanted to get to this because this is what's on the table in front of you, the JST. Before 2013, they used to call it the Arts and the Smarts transcripts, and that was for the Navy and the Marines and for the Army. Now it's changed over. They got smart, really smart, and they came together and created the Joint Services Transcript. This is not housed at ACE. It is housed through Dante's, which is the Defense Activities Non-Traditional Educational Services group, which is a branch of the DoD. So for all individuals who are actually in the service or even veterans, if they're going through to use any of their military educational credits, it kind of comes through Dante's, or there's some things that come through the VA post them coming out. So, but this is the triad I call here, and this is how things have kind of worked together from that. Excuse me, sweating. So all of our data that you'll see on this transcript, when you go back to that military guide, all of the data that's on that military guide feeds into the transcript. And we have reviews going on all the time. I think last year we had over 318 reviews that took place. So a lot, and that was both corporate and military. So they are kind of got, and we've gotten smart too. We've actually started to do virtual reviews too, if we can. Oops. Here's another one here too. This is our Veterans Toolbox. This is on the ACE website as well. And that was actually on that previous page from there, so I just thought I'd do a screenshot so you can see this. But veteran friendly if you become a veteran friendly campus. One of the weirdest things is ACE did a poll, and more people trusted the military evaluations than they did the corporate. The problem is sometimes it's the same people. So like I said, I'm on both sides of the house. Of the 3,270 something evaluators we have in the database, probably 95% of them are on both sides of the house. So it's the same people with the same brain, I guess, who are doing those reviews. So I guess just the point that most people feel more patriotic doing this, but to me, you're kind of doing yourself a disservice because there are a lot of people who are getting a lot of credit from those other organizations. And again, we've seen McDonald's, Starbucks put a lot of money into their workforce. In your packet, See, we got smart this time, Christine. We made up a flyer, and I didn't bring it up with me. So in your packet, there's a flyer. I am not a shameful person. I will put out a plug anytime I can, okay? So my son, Girl Scout troop. No, I'm joking. See, can you catch that? My son's Girl Scout. We need faculty members, seriously. We are actually, we're seeing, just like you guys are seeing on your campuses, we're seeing a lot of people retire. And they're moving on to their next level of work. And as I mentioned, you have to be actively teaching at a regionally accredited institution, so we need faculty members. So again, I'm working with ACE to try to put together a webinar, dog and pony show, I guess you want to call it, to where we can spit this out and we can actually start recruiting faculty members. Because the best way for you guys to understand this, especially for faculty, to hopefully be part of the webinar or be a reviewer. My quick short story was when I became a chair, I was a snot-nosed chair, and I didn't believe that there was a difference between adult learners and regular student learners on our campus until my dean of, actually vice president at the time, Barb, stuck me in a weekend class, 8 hours on a Saturday with people, and I was the youngest person in the classroom as the instructor. And by 11 o'clock, I was dying, because the students were dying and I thought they were going to kill me. Because what went well with the 17, 18, and 19-year-old was not working with that 25, 30-year-old. And I called Barb for help. I needed backup. And this is probably the first time I ever called for backup. But I called for backup and I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I yield to all of this. So again, I'm kind of a convert to a certain degree. I've seen the light, but I didn't drink the juice. I saw the light, but I understand it now, and I think that's what we have to do with some of our faculty members. They just have to understand that there is a little bit slight of a difference there in how we look at and what adults are looking for in the classroom. And when I say adults, people who have that kind of work experience, but I'm starting to find 18 and 19-year-olds who have a lot of work experience as well. So at this point right now, we just have kind of a differentiated type of learner coming in the classroom, and we need to be ready for that. So again, putting the plug out there, you have the flyer. On that flyer is the web address where they actually will go and fill out the information form. Whoa. So we can get into questions, but I think we're going to roll into our lunch. Actually, I think Christine always puts me before lunch, so I can kind of like be the roadblock for you guys. No, I'm joking. From that. So we can open up for questions, but then we also have our paddle. But I wanted to point these out. Mary Beth Lakin is the director of the College and University program. I actually report to. Patty and I both started out as regional liaisons, and since then I've moved on to the affiliate level, so I've taken a step down as an advisor within that. But Patty, and I have to tell you, she is wonderful. She was at Dayton, the University of Dayton, Kaya, I can never pronounce this, Ohio, Cayuga, yeah, I can never pronounce it. Community college there as well. So she knows policy, she knows administrative side, so she is a guru on that, and she's actually done a number of webinars on setting up those policies and everything from there. So the hook's coming up for me.
No. 10 minutes for questions. 10 minutes.
Oh, shuckins.
Tricia, here's the other mic.
So I was hogging it.
Okay, so any questions right now? We gave you lots of
In
information.
the human. Questions make me sweat. I'm nervous. No, I'm checking.
Which other program examples do you have for medical besides nursing?
We've seen healthcare administration. We've also seen, this is actually it's in San Antonio, Fort Sam Houston, their medical school, they've actually combined, so we see dental, we have veterinarian, science, what's the other one that we have? For the EMTs, yeah, and that's always been one of those things because of most of the combat medics, that actually kind of rolls into that one as well from there. So, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I've got a question.
Okay.
Let me see if I can, what I'm thinking, put it into words for you.
Okay.
And I don't mean to put you on the spot, like you mentioned,
Okay, no problem.
but we have for years programs, and it's always been technical education programs
Right,
that would evaluate military transcripts.
right.
And the program at the program faculty level. So the program faculty will evaluate the ACE recommendation, which has already been done by y'all.
Right.
And I think that, if I'm not mistaken, that the Central Texas College has taken it a step further. So
Yes.
to confirm that, they've taken the ACE credit recommendations, and they're establishing course equivalency in the Wickham course inventory.
Right.
Correct?
Yes.
All right, so at South Plains College for years and years and years, we'll get a student transcript, military transcript. We give it to the program about it, goes to the program.
Right.
Testing and advising, advisors may have that, but they can't make that call. See?
Right.
So it's got to go back to the program. They will evaluate what they're going to give credit for, and then and if the advisor, an advising center is talking to the student, then it's got to go back to the advisor. Can you see the time?
Oh, yeah, the time,
there?
yeah,
It's-
exactly. Yep,
it's
right.
additional time.
Yeah,
So what I'm understanding is that Central Texas College has already established that.
Yes.
In the Wickham inventory. So instead of sending it back to the program.
Right.
To be evaluated by faculty, then advising can simply go to this website, establish what has already been established in course equivalency.
right.
And they can use that. And we all know it's all about SACS accreditation. And
Yep.
documentation
Yep.
for SACS.
Right.
accreditation.
Yep.
So has Central Texas College, has all this process been approved by SACS, and have they met the accreditation requirements on
Right.
that?
Yep. And that's two good points there. One point I want to make is that, well, actually it's three. One is the process there. That you go through on all of this. And again, this is going to be up to an individual campus, how you work it through your system. What in MNSCU, which is the Minnesota State system for their colleges and universities, including technical colleges, what they did, and I cannot remember the lady's name, but I will get it to you, Christine. They did a wonderful job. They actually did this huge business plan layout. And they went to the faculty senate for the state and said, okay, great. This is how much time it's going to take you if you and each individual campus does this on your own. And they showed them a chart. Because they said, this is how much time it took us just to set this presentation up to show you. Or, if you would like for us to do, you bring in some representatives, we all work together, we get it done, and guess what? It's done much quicker, simpler, and everyone approves it, works with it, agrees to it, everyone shakes their hands, and that's it, and that happens. And that's what MNSCU did. And so you can do that on your campus as well. You can form that committee, you can form that group, and get it going. There has to be faculty input, and that input can come from the deans, the chairs, or individual faculty members from that standpoint, or even just the representatives that the faculty members will choose. So that takes care of that process part there. The other part is, and we hear this a lot, so last year we actually had a webinar, and I can try to find the link to it, where we actually brought in the regional accreditors, Middle States, SACS, WAS, Northwest. We brought them all in onto a panel because we're saying we're hearing this from faculty that this does not jive well. And do you know what they actually said? They gave us a blanket statement that basically it is up to the individual college. Right, and they're going to say that, but as long as you are within guidelines and you're within your residency guidelines within SACS and within the state, you're there. You just, and the documentation's in that point. The best thing about ACE, NCCRS is another organization that does credit evaluations as well out of New York. If it's been documented, especially by a third-party group, there's your validation right there. Because we have our systems, our policies, and our metrics in place. So a third party looks good from that. Now, when you set up individual articulation agreements, maybe like with McDonald's, or maybe like, say, with the local plant or whatever, then you're going to have to document that. But it's already been documented on that third party level.